We're back out here once again, and today we're talking all about fish attractants. Do they actually work, and which one is the best? Stick around, we're going to talk all about it. Got him. Come on, you're not digging. Get over here. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And you know, for the longest time, I was firmly entrenched in the no bait sense camp. I thought fish attractants and bait scents were just a waste of money. You know, most of my 50 plus years on this planet, I viewed them with a bunch of skepticism. And us older anglers tend to do that, don't we? We see things that are new, we see things that are different, and we tend to say, well, that's meant to catch anglers, not fish. Sometimes that is certainly true, but I really wanted to do a deep dive. So I kind of been on a journey this year. I wanted to see what's the facts. What are the truths about bait scents and fish attractants? I needed to find out for myself. And you guys have seen some of the goofy experiments that I've done, whether it's been soaking my plastics, whatever sort, in gulp minnow juice for a week, or using a stinky sauce and soaking my worms down with that. And I've had a lot of success. But there's something that I really discovered. Number one is fish attractants can really play a huge role in a lot of situations whenever we're out bass fishing. And another thing is, you can't just go with one type. The thing that I've noticed is, just like lures, just like your baits and presentations, fish can actually become attracted to things. You think about it like this, right? You like a chili dog. I like a chili dog, but I don't like the effect a chili dog has on my stomach. I might eat it, but then after a while, I'm going to say, you know what? That has a bad effect on me. I might want to leave it be this time. So fish are the same way. They recognize, hey, that fish attractant smells good. I'm going to bite it. But then they realize that there's some bad effects that go along with it. So they kind of make that association just like they would with any other bait. So there are different types of bait scents out there. And the three predominant ones, especially the ones we're going to talk about today, are garlic, which is probably the most popular, fish scents such as shad or shiner, and licorice or anise, more properly. And these three scents basically have the biggest handle on the market, especially for freshwater bass fishing. Now, for saltwater fishing, you've got shrimp and you've got some other different types, squid and whatnot. And there are some other different scents, such as crawfish for bass fishing. But the three big ones are your shad, shiner scents, your garlic scent, which is probably the biggest, and your anise or licorice scent. And I found out that if you use these different scents in different ways at different times, and I really don't think that there is a specific time whenever I go out to the water, and like anything else, I'm saying, hey, look at these conditions, throw this bait. And I'm not thinking, well, this scent needs to be paired up with that. The bass are not that bougie. They're not looking for the perfect meal. They're not looking to dine at Bobby Flay's restaurant, as it were. All they want is something that's appealing to them, whether it gets their hunger going, whether it gets their strike instinct going, or whether it just ignites their curiosity. Bass are looking for something that appeals to them. So a lot of guys will start with something like this, right? Spike it. Everybody's got some spike it. Everybody likes to dip the tail of their worms or their crawls or whatever to get that little bit of chartreuse or that little bit of methylate in there. But these things reek of garlic. This is a very stinky sauce. Got a lot of garlic oil in it. Now, does it work because of the change in color? Does it work because of the garlic oil? Or is it a combination of the two? But a lot of guys will definitely attest that garlic oil is the number one attractant, that the bass will go crazy for it. And a lot of times we combine that with salt. Now, why do bass like garlic and salt? They have no business liking garlic and salt, but it's something that they're very attracted to. And even whenever we get it infused in our soft plastics. This is a Gambler boxer craw, and these things, as soon as you open up that package, man, that aroma of garlic just comes screaming out at you. And these are June bug color, and these make really good jig trailers. That's normally what I'm using them for. They got that little nub on there for being used as a flipping bait, but I like them more as a jig trailer, and I get a lot of nice bites on these things. This is one of those things where if I'm having kind of a slower day and I don't think that those bass are in much of a mood, if they're lethargic or suspending or whatnot, that's when I will definitely go to a bait scent, a fish attractant, to try to kick those bass into gear. And a lot of times it works. So I went from using bait scents all the time to now using bait scents in key situations because, like anything else, I don't want to overdo it. And it seems to be very effective. On those days whenever I'm having a little bit more of a struggle, I'll add some bait scent to it. And I'm rotating the bait scents out that I use. Then there's the old tried and true, my old favorite. And you guys remember this, right? This is the old shad scent. I got this at Walmart. These are like $6 for this bottle, something in that area. And I sprayed my bags of plastic down with them, mixed it in really good, and I let it sit for a few days. Worked extremely well. It ignited those bass, and I've never seen bass bite so crazy. Caught over 20 fish in just a couple of hours. So that right there was probably the biggest thing that said, okay, I can catch some bass. But lastly, we've got the old anise scent. We've got the old licorice scent. Now this one here, this one I had my doubts about because I have several brands such as this Reaper Baits. And as you open the package again, it's got that really, really strong licorice or anise smell to it. I mean, it's very, very strong. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not the biggest fan of black licorice. Some people like it. A lot of people really don't care for it. So for the longest time, I thought, well, black licorice smell, that anise smell, just isn't doing it. It's not really that good. But then I started using the missile baits, the D-bombs, and these things also have anise oil in them. But you know what? It's not nearly as strong, and it's slightly different. It almost has like a motor oil scent to it, but you can smell that anise in there very well. But it's not as open the bag, you're bombarded by that anise smell. And these things just work. This has turned into one of my favorite jig trailers. I use these on a Mojo rig, a Baby Carolina, and I'm using them on a Texas rig, and I've been getting bites. They've been one of my favorite baits. Now, I tried different variations on that, and I'm just not getting the bites as I am with that bait. Is it the bait or is it the scent? And I'm more inclined to think that it's all about the scent, because the more research that comes in, the more science that's done on it, we understand that bass are very scent driven, more than sight driven. And that makes a lot of sense because in a lot of environments that they live in, it's very murky. If you're in a river system, if you've got a Mississippi River bass, most of the time that bass is going to be facing very dirty water. They're not going to be able to see what's going around them. They may just have several inches of visibility. So they need to rely on scent, and they need to rely on the vibration in the water from their lateral lines. And that goes to make a lot of sense. So we know that bass are keyed in on scent. So rather than just spraying the baits, like we've seen them before, right? We saw Bill Dance hold up his lure, do a couple of spritzes with it, throw it in the water and catch a fish. But after bait fuel came out and we saw people taking that, mixing it in their bait and letting it sit, that became the craze. Why? Because of something called osmosis. Osmosis is a form of entropy. It's a balance. We've got a liquid on the outside, we've got a dry on the inside, and they kind of merge together. That's sort of a simplistic way of explaining it, but it's a balance. It creates a balance from the outside to the inside. It allows that oil, it allows that scent to penetrate those plastics, and we can get a very scented bait. It doesn't really take very long. It doesn't take but maybe overnight, or maybe just a couple of hours if that's all you need. You can do it in the morning before your trip out to the lake, and a lot of times you'd be surprised just exactly how much bait, how much scent those plastics pick up. I prefer to do it for a longer time. But getting back to the anise oil, a buddy of mine really turned me on to it. He said there's an old school way of making these scents. He says that this is how the old timers do it, and he gave me the recipe, and I'm currently experimenting with that recipe. I got to give Hicks, I got to give you a big shout out, buddy. Thank you so much for this. I've been working with it, I've been experimenting with it, and so far the results are very intriguing. The wife and I went out on the bass buggy yesterday, and she tried one of the worms that we just preliminarily soaked in this solution, caught a fish very, very quickly. It surprised her because she was actually getting attention from many fish. And she thought it was bluegill pecking at it. But whenever she actually set the hook and reeled it in, it was a nice little bass. I'm seeing bigger fish though. You got him?
Yeah, I might have lost it.
Looks like you got, no, you got him. Got you a little bass. Hot dog, that's actually not a little bass. That's, well, that is one for the, nope, that's one for the oil.
Yep.
So that video is coming where I'm going to do a deep dive into that mixture, how I'm working it, and if it's even effective. But, you know, if you're like me and you're old guard and you do things the old way, and you tend to make things harder for yourself in the process, try experimenting with fish attractants. I'm telling you, they actually do a lot more than you think they do. But you have to do it like you would a bait. Find some that you like. I like garlic. I like the fish scent, the shad, and the shiner. And I also am getting to where I like the right mix of anise. And I rotate these scents out. I keep everything fresh, just like I would do a bait. And it works great. I'm having a lot of success doing that. It's like anything else. You've got to experiment with it. You've got to figure out what works best for you and then dial that in. But the anise, the garlic, and the fish, those are the ones that I'm working with. Soak your baits in that for as long as you can. Leave them soaking in that. And I'm telling you, you will have huge differences whenever you go out on the lake and you start fishing. There are so many ways that it impacts how you fish. So give it a try. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. So there you have it. I went from firmly being in the camp that fish attractants and bait scents were just a bunch of garbage to now believing that they are an important part of my bass fishing arsenal. But like anything else, they have to be rotated and they have to be used in the right way under the right circumstances. Once you figure that out, you can really elevate your bass fishing game in ways you never thought about before. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.